One such story was about a haunted house on Kadena Air Base. One Air Force officer murdered his entire family in Building 2283 in the late 1970s. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Storm and Cellar. Have you ever wondered about the effects of a huge amount of deaths during a battle? Now, I'm not talking about the effects or the tragedy of loss of life, but rather the effects of the afterlife. I was stationed at Kadena Air Base for 3 years in the late 1990s flying AWACS. Kadena is located on Okinawa Island in Japan and was one of the deadliest and bloodiest battles in the Pacific Theater during World War II. Most of the intense fighting was on the southern part of the island. The military thought the Japanese would be on the northern part of the island in the jungles, so they sent the Marines there and the Army to the southern part. In fact, most of the Japanese was dug in on Surrey Ridge and Naha, but that's another story for a different time. Not only were there military deaths, but a huge number of civilian deaths as well. The Japanese had convinced the Okinawans that the Americans would eat their children if captured, and hundreds of mothers leapt to their death with their children in their arms from a cliff on the east side of the island. While I was stationed there, I was very interested in the stories told about numerous sightings of ghosts and paranormal occurrences. One such story was about a haunted house on Kadena Air Base. One Air Force officer murdered his entire family in Building 2283 in the late 1970s. They couldn't keep anyone in that house because of all the paranormal activity. Later, another family moved into the house and the father stabbed and killed his entire family. The house was never offered to military families again, but that didn't stop the eerie occurrences. Reports of children crying, strange laughter, and a woman washing her hair in the abandoned sink was observed. The USO, which was located adjacent to the house, used the building for storage after that. Although Okinawan summers were extremely hot and humid, a group of USO employees went into the house one day and it was ice cold with no air conditioning. They also reported bloodstains on the floor and curtains. Because the USO folks constantly complained about how cold it was in that one room, base officials decided to knock that part of the house down. Now, Halloween became an interesting time for folks to take tours outside the house, but there were so many unexplained occurrences that they stopped the tours. There was noises in the house, there was curtains being flung open, lights on and off, so they just stopped it. However, I remember one time after the tours had stopped, I asked my buddy to meet me there late one Halloween night. And while he was peering into the window in the back of the house, I sneaked up behind him and screamed. Now, I'm not sure if he wet his pants or had a mild cardio infarction, but he wasn't happy either way. After he calmed down, we shined our flashlight into the window, and we did see what we believed to be a butcher knife on the floor. Now, whether that was planted there or not, I don't know, but needless to say, we saw enough to move along and I never went back again. There was a Department of Defense elementary school nearby, and the children used to throw toys over the fence into the yard because they heard children in the house on the other side asking for them. Author Jane Hitchcock, if you can imagine that name, wrote in her book, The Ghost of Okinawa, that she performed a seance there, and it was so terrifying that she refused to ever go back, despite the fact she had been offered to go back many times to pay her way there and everything. She didn't want to have anything to do with it. Well, the military had had enough of the house and all that went with it, and it was destroyed around 2010, I believe. Some might ask why it wasn't torn down earlier. Well, supposedly, the demolition crews experienced hallucinations, high-on-the-job injuries, headaches, so the Air Force had just left it alone for the longest time, and then they finally just had enough and they got rid of it. Now, another interesting place at Kadena is at Gate 3. Ever since the base was built, U.S. Air Force security forces posted at that gate have reported at night the ghost of a soldier on the other side of the fence just standing there and staring in at the guard. Paranormal psychologists had actually filmed a ghost moving across the road. According to security force personnel that I talked with when I was there, said the soldier never caused any harm, but only to freak out the guards to the point that no one wanted to stand that particular post. Now, I don't take drugs, I wasn't drinking, and I consider myself to be reasonably sane, although some of my friends might disagree with me. But I was coming home from a friend's off-base house late one night and unfortunately missed my turn into the main gate of the base. So I elected to hustle down to gate 4 on the back side of the base before they closed at 2100 or 9 o'clock. Now, the back side of the base is very dark and desolate. There's nothing back there. I just made it in and drove quarter to a half mile when I noticed two people walking alongside the road, and I thought, this is very strange that anyone would be on this side of the base late at night. So the closer I got, I noticed it was a woman and a child, and the woman was holding the child's hand. As my car lights was on them at this point pretty good, I could see that they were barefooted and in old war-torn clothes. Now, Okinawans are well-dressed people, and now my mind starts to race. How in the heck did they get through the gate, and why are they dressed like this? So, as I pulled up beside them, I rolled down my window and I asked who they were. The woman said nothing, just kept walking and staring forward. I realized at this point that what I was seeing are the ghost of what I believe to be a mother and her child dressed in war-torn clothing and who were possibly killed during the Battle of Okinawa. Needless to say, my blood ran cold, and even today the hair stands up on my arms anytime I talk about it. There are many stories to be told about Okinawa, but I'm definitely going to leave it here for now. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and please follow my channel. Let me hear what you think by leaving your comments below. So until next time, remember, always make sure your takeoff and landings equal.